Hello y'all, Jamie from Country Diggers here. I'm gonna do a little history on a bottle. I hope y'all enjoy it. I kind of like doing the histories of the finds I find, and I hope y'all do too. So what I'm gonna do today is the story of Cutter Laboratories. This is called the Cutter Incident. And the bottle is from Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's Cutter Laboratories, but the bottling is from Chattanooga, Tennessee. This bottle was found, it's got a 3-hole puncture in it, so it's an IV bottle, I think. And it was dug in Florida in a 1930s to 50s dump. So I would put it in that age range right there. And here's the history on it. All right, here we go. Cutter Laboratories was a family-owned pharmaceutical company located in Berkeley, California, founded by Edward A. Hearn Cutter in 1897. Cutter's early products included an anthrax vaccine, hog cholera, which is swine fever virus, and anti-hog cholera serum, and eventually a hog cholera vaccine. The hog cholera vaccine was the first tissue culture vaccine, human or veterinarian, ever produced. The company expanded considerably during World War II as a consequence of government contracts for blood plasma, penicillin, and the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company bought out Cutter Laboratories in 1975. On April 12, 1955, following the announcement of the success of the polio vaccine trial, Cutter Laboratories became one of several companies that was recommended to be given a license by the United States government to produce Salix polio vaccine. In anticipation of the demand for the vaccine, the companies had already produced stocks of the vaccine, and these were issued once the licenses were signed. In what became known as the Cutter Incident, some lots of the Cutter vaccine, despite passing required safety test, contained the live polio virus in what was supposed to be an inactivated virus vaccine. Cutter withdrew its vaccine from the market on April 27th after vaccine-associated cases were reported. The mistake produced 120,000 doses, which you will come to realize it wasn't really a mistake at all, because there was a whistleblower, and you know what happens to whistleblowers. But they produced 120,000 doses of polio vaccine that contained live polio virus. Of children who received the vaccine, 40,000 developed abortive poliomeningitis, a form of the disease that does not involve the central nervous system. 56 developed paralytic poliomeningitis, and of these, 5 children died from polio. The exposures led to an epidemic of polio in families and communities of the affected children, resulting in a further 113 people paralyzed and 5 deaths. The director of Microbiology Institute lost his job, as did the equivalent of the Assistant Secretary for Health, Secretary of Health Education and Welfare stepped down. Dr. William H. Seabrail Jr., the director of the NIH, resigned. Surgeons General Skeely sent Dr. William Tripp and Carl Hayball from the NIH to inspect Cutter's Berkeley facilities, question workers, and examine records. After a thorough wait a minute, where am I? Sorry about that, I lost my place. Okay, after a thorough investigation, they found nothing wrong with Cutter's production methods. A congressional hearing in June 1955 concluded that the problem was primarily the lack of scrutiny from the NIH laboratory or biologics control and its excessive trust in the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis reports. A number of civil lawsuits were filed against Cutter Laboratories in subsequent years, the first of which was Gotterstank versus Cutter Laboratories. The jury found Cutter not negligent, but liable for breach of implied warranty, and awarded the plaintiffs monetary damages. This set a precedent for later lawsuits. All 5 companies that produced the Selleck vaccine in 1955, Eli Lilly, Parke Davis, Wentz, Pittman Moore, and Cutter, had difficulty completely inactivating the polio virus. 3 companies other than Cutter were sued, but the cases were settled out of court. The Cutter incident was one of the worst pharmaceutical disasters in U.S. history and exposed several thousand children to the live polio virus on vaccination. The NIH Laboratory of Biologics Control, which had certified the Cutter polio vaccine, had received advanced warnings of problems. In 1954, staff member Dr. Bernice Eddy had reported to her superiors that some inoculated monkeys had become paralyzed and provided photographs. These findings pointed to a flawed vaccine manufacturing process at Cutter Laboratories. Eddy reported her findings regarding the flawed vaccines to the head of laboratory of Biologics Control. William Workman, the head of Biologics Control, William Workman. Unfortunately, Workman did not heed Eddy's warnings. The identified problems with the vaccine was not passed down to the licensing advisory committee. Workman invalidated Eddy's findings and dismissed her off the polio research. The flawed vaccine was licensed for use to the public. On April 29, 1955, NIH Director William Seabrail chaired a meeting to examine Cutter's manufacturing protocols. The meeting was also attended by Eddy and produced no conclusion on what Cutter should do differently in its manufacturing process. Well, and you wonder why some people don't trust vaccines. And this just goes to show that there was as much corruption then as there is now. So, but hope y'all enjoy this. If you want to look up the Cutter incident, it's online, and read more about Dr. Bernice Eddy and find out what she went on to do. But I thought it was interesting. Thank y'all for listening. Bye.